Welcome back, guys. So here's the uncomfortable little plot twist of 2026. The Pentagon spent decades building a jet that is supposed to embody peak American air dominance. And the internet responded the way the internet always does, with tutorials. Not procurement, not classified briefings, tutorials. According to South China Morning Post, a Chinese account posted a viral breakdown on March 14 explaining how low-cost systems could target an F-35. And within 5 days, Iran publicly claimed it had struck one. Now, before anyone starts hyperventilating, no, that does not prove the tutorial caused the incident. But it does tell you something important. The monopoly on military know-how is getting mugged by open source culture. What makes this story interesting is not some movie script fantasy about a magic video instantly dropping a stealth jet out of the sky. The real story is kinda uglier, more modern, and frankly more embarrassing for the Empire crowd. A bunch of technically literate civilians, apparently acting without official sponsorship, are treating modern warfare like a crowdsourced engineering problem. And once military analysis goes open source, the cost curve starts looking very rude. So here's a core timeline. South China Morning Post reported that on March 14, a Chinese social media account called Laohu Talks World posted a tutorial subtitled in Persian explaining how Iran could use low-cost systems to target a US F-35 jet. SCMP said the video drew tens of millions of views. Then, on March 19th, Iran claimed it had struck a US F-35. A republication in the Star adds that similar Chinese STEM-heavy accounts were also posting material that allegedly included precise US military base coordinates in the region, missile strategies against aircraft carriers, and simulated defenses against a possible US landing on Iran's Karg Island. That is a wild sentence to say out loud. But there it is. Now, Iran said it hit an F-35 on March 19th. The US-aligned reporting started doing that familiar little two-step. Nothing to see here except for the damaged stealth jet, the wounded pilot, and the emergency landing. Air and Space Forces magazine reported that a US Air Force F-35A was damaged over Iran, that it was hit by ground fire, that the pilot suffered shrapnel wounds, and that the aircraft made an emergency landing at a regional base. Al Jazeera noted still had not publicly confirmed an Iranian hit in definitive terms, while also acknowledging that if Iran did hit it, it would be a first-of-its-kind wartime incident for the F-35. So no, I'm not going to repeat Pentagon bedtime stories about how this is all too fuzzy to discuss. The defensible line is simple. Iran claimed the hit, multiple outlets reported a damaged F-35 and emergency landing, and Washington's public messaging looked a lot more like damage control than transparency. And honestly, that is bad enough, because the strategic point here is not whether the jet was vaporized into confetti for social media engagement. The point is that even the possibility that a stealth fighter can be tracked, pressured, or damaged by a low-cost, more improvised sensor and missile setup changes the conversation. The mystique takes a hit. The aura takes a hit. The modern military procurement runs on aura almost as much as hardware. Let's talk numbers. Lockheed Martin said in January 2026 that the global F-35 fleet had grown to almost 1,300 aircraft, that it delivered 191 F-35s in 2025, and that lots 18 and 19 covered up to 296 aircraft for $24 billion. That contract works out to an implied average of roughly $81 million per aircraft. Before you even get into the broader lifetime program cost arguments that have haunted this jet for years. So if your multi-decade, high-maintenance stealth ecosystem can be threatened by people discussing infrared sensors, mobile launchers, and improvised detection methods on social media, that is not just a battlefield story. That is a brutal return on investment conversation. This is also where the China angle matters. The South China Morning Post piece frames this as a civilian technical phenomenon. People with science and engineering backgrounds treat in war analysis like a distributed problem set, and whether you like it or not, China has the human capital base for it. According to the US National Science Foundation's NCSES, China awarded about 2 million science and engineering first university degrees in 2020, compared with about 900,000 in the United States. China also awarded 43,000 SNE doctorates that year, slightly above the US's total of 42,000. So when people say, how can random civilians be producing military-grade analysis at scale? The answer is, they're not exactly random. They're emergent from a system that graduates an enormous volume of technically trained people. Apparently, some of them have now decided to spend their free time beta testing the mythology of American air superiority. The old model of war said states monopolize expertise, intelligence, targeting logic, and operational theory. The new model says a decent chunk of that ecosystem can leak into public spaces. Some of it is sloppy propaganda, some of it is recycled nonsense, but some of it is serious enough that defense professionals have to pay attention. And once that knowledge is translated, clipped, subtitled, shared, memed, and iterated on, the barrier between civilian commentary and wartime utility gets very thin, very fast. Which is really the most 2026 thing imaginable. The United States builds the flying cathedral of the military-industrial complex. China contributes the engineering surplus. Social media contributes the distribution. Iran contributes the field test. And everybody else contributes hot takes pretending this is still the 1990s. And only governments know how anything works. Sorry, that era has left the chat. The bigger humiliation here is not just that an F-35 may have been hit, it is that the Empire's favorite flying status symbol now comes with an asterisk. After all the branding, all the swagger, all the trillion-dollar mythology, the public story winds up sounding like this. Our invincible jet was not shot down, it merely got damaged by enemy fire, wounded the pilot, and had to limp home for an emergency landing. Wow, what a relief. That is not dominance. That is a very expensive way to discover that propaganda has a shorter range than physics. And if open source analysis, cheap sensors, and decentralized engineering can even complicate the F-35's battlefield aura, then America is not selling invincibility anymore. It is selling cope at premium pricing. If you want more reporting like this, heavy on receipts, light on Pentagon fairy dust, hit like, subscribe, and drop a comment telling me whether this is a one-off information war stunt or the preview of a much bigger shift in how military power gets challenged. Thanks for watching, guys, and until next time, bye.